Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're well. I recently and finally watched Hamilton, and I have been listening to the soundtrack and singing non-stop. I'd apologize to my family, but I think they could use the history lesson. Anyway, for today's video, we're going over 5 steps to creating a good protagonist, which, along with the plot, is a fairly important component to your story. But before I continue, thank you for visiting me today. If you're new here, I'm Naley Gonzalez, author of the new adult psychic suspense novel Like My Mother Before Me. And welcome to my channel, where I share tips and advice on writing, the self-publishing process, my occasional opinion on stuff going on in the writing world, and other fun writerly videos. If you're interested in any of that, then I recommend clicking that subscribe button and turning on your notifications so you never miss a video. If you're a returning subscriber and friend, shout out to you for keeping me going. Your support is one of the greatest gifts in the world. Now, protagonists are the central main character that keeps the reader's interest. While there's a wide variety of different protagonists, what's most important is that they're well written. A reader never finds anything interesting in a mediocre lead. Protagonists must be relatable and accessible to the reader in order for them to be considered the best. A lot of us may never experience what they do, like flying on a dragon's back or fighting in an intergalactic space battle. We may also never agree with their actions, but we need to understand their motives. No matter what you're planning to write, spend a decent amount of time learning what makes your protagonist tick if you want to create a character worth rooting for. In order to do this, there are a few essential steps you'll want to keep in mind. Number 1, ensure they're relatable. Those perfect comic book hero characters are out. They have been for a while, but as much as I hate reading them, they keep showing up. Luckily, that's changing, especially with old hero characters. They're starting to become a bit more human. Why? Because they aren't interesting if they're not relatable in some way. And if we can't relate, we won't be emotionally invested in their journey or the story. Honestly, it's just a quick way to lose the reader. The best way to avoid this and make your protagonist relatable is to highlight their flaws. Don't hide them and pretend they don't exist. No one is perfect, and your protagonist can't be either. Present their internal and external struggle. Consider Batman's flaws. While a lot of us can sit and discuss and debate what his true flaws are, we can all agree that he's distrusting and not winning any Dad of the Year awards. But these flaws tie into his backstory and explains why he is the way he is. Imagine if Bruce Wayne suffered the traumatizing event of witnessing his parents' murder and growing up to be a trusting guy and a wonderful dad who's on the parent-teacher committee. It would be horribly boring. We'd miss out on the awesome events that eventually lead him to becoming Batman and the appreciation of his good traits. Making your characters imperfect makes them more accessible. Even if your reader doesn't see themselves completely in your character, they'll be more sympathetic and invested in your plot if your character feels like a real person. A quick side note, don't let your characters or the narrator tell your readers and the protagonist what their flaws are. I read a story where the protagonist was practically godlike. He could do no wrong, was loved by all, or turned every enemy into his ally, won all his battles, resolved all his conflicts, and was inhumanly skilled at combat. I'm just saying, Zeus was an actual god, and his biggest flaw was that he was a hoe. To my knowledge, nowhere in Greek mythology has anyone ever gone up to Zeus and said, "You know what your biggest flaw is? You a hoe." I mean, can it be done? Sure, I guess. But I personally find it lazy. Do what you're gonna do. All I'm saying is that your exposition and narrative should make it clear what your protagonist's flaw is, not your other characters. Number 2, create a blueprint of their history. Notice I said blueprint to avoid the panster wrath. Every character's got history. We just talked about Bruce Wayne's. As you build your protagonist, aim to have their backstory be as complete of a picture as possible. Even if your reader never sees any of it. Ask yourself important questions about what made them who they are. Things like, where have they lived? What traumas have they experienced? What kind of relationships do they have with their family? Imagining their full history will assist in creating a more complete and reliable protagonist. Again, you may not use every detail of their history, but you should consider sharing important moments. This allows insight into your character's motivations and what shaped them. Sympathy will be more achievable for your characters once they know more about them too. Another side note, creating a character profile will help in creating a more dynamic and relatable protag. Just like your backstory, think of as many details that will help complete your character even more. In case you're in need, I have an insanely detailed and free character bio for you to use. The link is available for you in the description. You can snag the password at the bottom of my most recent newsletter. If you'd rather it be more simple, you can include things like their name, age, profession, family background, likes and dislikes, and whatever you deem appropriate. Find what makes your character unique and be as detailed as you possibly can. The more thorough you are, the more memorable your character will be. Number 3, identify identify their why. Since they're a central character, there needs to be a reason why they do what they do. So why are they doing this? This driving force has to be strong enough that they keep on going despite the serious challenges and obstacles. If readers can't comprehend your protagonist's purpose, they won't have a reason to cheer for them as the story goes on. Aside from plot motivation, your protagonist needs to be driven by a more universal internal desire. Each of us has everyday wants, hopes, and fears that most of us can understand or relate to. Maybe they do it because they don't want to be alone, or they need to prove their worth, feel accepted, or prove they're not crazy. It's this deep inclination that will goad your character's actions throughout the plot and keep them going despite how high the odds are stacked against them. Number 4, raise the stakes. Your protagonist has to have something to lose in all of this. There has to be a risk that your character will fail in their mission, journey, or quest. If there isn't anything to lose, then what reasons does your reader have to care? Why should they invest any of their time in your story? The obstacles and challenges your protagonist must face should be realistic and greater than them. You can go with the classic. An important person to the protagonist has been kidnapped and they only have so much time to save them. Or maybe your protagonist is a lawyer and their client has been accused of murder and they need to help clear their name or they'll be executed. In this case, someone else's life and their reputation is at risk. Whatever the odds are, your reader will see the protagonist struggle and fight to survive them, making it clear why they're rooting for them. And number 5, make sure they grow. Not only do readers need to relate to your protagonist, but they have to be able to see how your character acclimates to the conflict they face. They want to see them evolve and reach their goals. Since you now have a clear challenge for your protagonist, decide what they'll have to face and overcome to reach those goals. Whatever those are have to involve some change in your protagonist. Do not leave yourself and your reader with a static character. Don't make them too perfect. Don't make them perfect at all. Make them human and give them room to grow. This growth is a turning point in your story. Your character has to make a choice to act out of character now, whether it's having to face their fear or doing something that jeopardizes their morals. All of this is them making the sacrifice of their old self to attain their goals and come out on the other side better than before. These turning points will cultivate your plot and build up to the climax of your story. And that's all 5 steps to creating a good protagonist. I hope you found all 5 steps useful, and remember to take your time to develop a strong and intricate character for your novel. The more relatable and accessible they are, the more invested your reader will be. Be sure to give this video a like so I know to make more, and subscribe to my channel for more writing tips and advice. I post new videos on Sundays, so turn on your notifications to be the first to know when they're live, and follow me on social media and join my mailing list to always be up to date on my novels and current writing projects. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time.